Hey Trackies, welcome back to another video here on TXT Track Time. Trackies, please remember to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. Now, Trackies, I've come across a very, interesting, very intriguing, insightful, interview done by Street Driven TV here on YouTube. I'm going to link the video in the description for you all to go ahead and listen. As again, it's very insightful, so please watch. They interviewed Stephen Francis and of course Paul Francis. This was prior to the national championships, Trackies. However, we found it again very interesting in the fact that, there's a stark contrast between this one that took place prior to the championships and, of course, the one done by Sportsmax, post or during, the championships, right? So, of course, in that interview, Trackies, we, took an issue with the framing of the whole entire interview, Trackies, and we thought, you know what, it would have been better for Stephen Francis to say, okay, no comment and keep it pushing. It just wasn't the time. Elaine was hurting, so it left a bad taste in our mouth. And then, you know what? It was either Elaine looked like, the Wicked Witch of Narnia, or in our opinion, Stephen Francis came off looking like a narcissistic, vengeful spirit. That's what we said, right? No, track is obviously we also shed light on things that Steven would have said previously, in the past, where he was like, why are we making a big deal out of an athlete, leaving a club? This happens all the time. We shouldn't be making a big deal out of it. So I said, what happened to this Steven? That's the Steven I'm used to. What's going on here? You know what I mean? Anyway, track is Street Driven TV has now, released the interview that they did with Stephen Francis. And again, there's a stark contrast as it relates to, the framing or the tone of the entire interview. Now, Chuckies, I'm going to go ahead, and share my screen and we're going to react to, everything that Stephen Francis has to say as it relates to Elaine Thompson Hira. I think it's a roughly almost an hour interview, Chuckies, but again, it's really good. So I implore you to, go ahead and head on over to Street Driven TV and, watch the entire video. Now, with that said, let's jump into
What the
it.
people lips is, would the MVP track club consider coaching Elaine Thompson here once more, given all that transpired after Tokyo Olympic and her recent struggles?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I am in. I have a lot of sympathy for Elaine.
Yeah, sympathy.
Right.
Focus on the tone.
I could have seen the situation happen when she got married, coming when she got married. I'm only disappointed that she didn't see it. She was not stronger to resist the various pulls on her, But
See,
so
also
it is
understanding
not,
the delicate dynamic between husband and
when
wife.
she left, somebody asked me what I think going to happen to her. And I said, well, the first thing she has to do is stay healthy. And believe me, that is easier that is harder than you think. I said, somebody with her, like her, who is as finely tuned as her, is going to break down multiple times per month or even per week. And the key challenge is to keep her healthy. Because I remember when she had won the trials in 20.
Pause here for a second, Trackies. I'm glad that Stephen had this to say as it relates to her injuries. Trackies, a lot of times when we talk about the athletes and the potential injuries that they're facing, a lot of you will come on and say, oh, this is an excuse. But listen to Stephen say how delicate Elaine is breaking down, ev- every week. No, this is crazy. It just goes to show you the extent, as it relates to how serious her Achilles and any other injuries that she's facing, really is. For an athlete to be breaking down, every week slash every month, that is crazy. No, clearly she needs, special handling in a situation like that. So for y'all out there that didn't believe that, she can break down as frequently, as she did indicate, here you have Stephen Francis confirming it. So yes, that has been deadened. Thank you, Stephen. Let's keep it moving. Let's continue.
19. We had managed her foot situation, I think fairly well. She could train most of the time. We went over to our base in Italy, and there was a physio there who started working on her. I took one look at what he was doing and said to Elaine, no, don't go back to him. Right? What we are doing here, what we were doing in Jamaica, let us leave. Let us keep doing that, because we can use that to manage your situation. I don't think she listened, and it went to a point where she could hardly walk.
Okay, that's interesting. Again, I'm glad he shed light on, this particular situation, especially, the World Championship year. We've always asked the question, what happened in those years when it came to Elaine Thompson Hera. So here he's saying that there was some physiotherapist that, he didn't really trust to do the job, the right way, because he took a look at it and said, hey, this is not working. However, Elaine still decided to continue working with him, and it seems as though, it got to a point where she could not walk. Hence, because them going on over to Italy track is a precursor to the World Championships. So if this is like a few weeks out from the World Championships and she can't walk, it means that the performances at the World Championships would not be what she, quote unquote, contend with Shelly, because you remember Shelly was back and banging, but she would have taken a step back, based on what took place, I guess, with this person. Also remember that, she and Shelly, they went to the trials together. It was a dead heat, I think 10.73, crazy, but Elaine took the win, but it didn't really happen for her or work out for her well at the World Championships, and now we know. And I like hearing this information so that we have something, a point of reference, going forward. So yeah, again, let's continue.
But she learned from that, and I think I managed to convince her that, look, you are going to be okay for 2020, 2021. So, but as I said before, when she does listen and try to follow the advice that I give her most of the time, the problem is that she is not alone in her family, and that I think makes the situation untenable from our perspective. And there's no way that you can coach an athlete who you know that if you tell her to do X, right, there is somebody else who's going to be telling her to do 9, to do Y, who she may trust just as much as you, even though she knows she should listen to you, but she may have no choice but to listen to the other voice. Family tension and peace at home and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean,
Okay, so Trackies, again, more light is being shed into this situation, and I'm loving this interview so far. Trackies, remember, all everybody keeps saying, or most of y'all keep saying, oh, Elaine is uncoachable. No such thing. Now, clearly, Stephen is speaking to the delicate dynamic between Elaine slash her coach and now slash the husband. So there's Elaine right here in the center. There's her coach saying, okay, do this. And there seems to be her husband on the other end saying, do this as well. And you know what? At the end of the day, this is her husband. This is her most trusted confidant. So even though her coach is telling her to do X, her husband seems to have been telling her to do Y. And of course, she's going to go with that because that is her husband. And he understands the delicate dynamic there, Trackies. And for him, it's not a situation that he can work with because, again, he is the coach, which of course is understandable. Now, Trackies, again, he has dated another argument that Elaine is uncoachable. She's just right now, it seems as though in a very delicate situation as it relates to, well, no longer, because she's no longer at MVP, and her husband is now her coach. But at the time, the situation was a bit delicate in terms of who was coach, who was husband, and where Elaine figured in all of this. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's continue.
her in the future is, quite frankly, to me, is near impossible. And as I said, we have a lot of young girls Young girls, not so young girls, 20-something girls who I feel are going to can dominate the world of sprinting in the next 3 to 4 years. And so therefore, I'm a person who like challenges and and then plus, I mean, when she left, I don't think she ever once said that Coach Francis and Sean Manboard kept me healthy so that I could go out and run and do this. She give all the credit to whoever else. So I don't think those two people would be in the mood to work with her.
Once all go
Okay, Trackies. I think this is where the section with Elaine Thompson here ends. But on to that last point that he made, I'm kind of understanding Stephen Francis's point of view a bit better. Again, that Sportsmax interview and the framing Trackies again was just terrible for all parties involved. You know what I mean? So here he speaks to not saying Stephen Francis, and I missed the other person's name, but yes, I understand what he's saying. It seems as though because we are of the view, of course, because we've seen it already on interviews where she has thanked MVP, but it comes off, I suppose, to MVP as a bit backhanded, or comes off as an insult because you didn't expressly say Stephen Francis and the other persons that were involved. That is what I'm getting from what he's saying here. Again, so track is the framing. The framing of an interview is very, very interesting, or very, very important. All right, so track is long story short. I just believe that outsiders need to stay out of it. I believe that um, whether it's the media, they're spinning this ridiculous narrative as it relates to Elaine and even Stephen Francis himself. Because again, as I said, that Sportsmax interview didn't make anybody look good. It made Stephen look bad and it made Elaine look bad. You know what I mean? And honestly, this is just driving a wedge between Elaine and Stephen Francis. And I love the fact that he left the door open. Based on this interview, he left the door open in the sense where Elaine may not want to quote unquote work with you again, but I can still approach you and still have a conversation with Coach Stephen Francis. Again, track is for us, we've always loved Stephen Francis. We know the type of no nonsense guy he is. It kind of struck us, that interview, what he said, because that was not the Stephen Francis that we were even used to. You know what I mean? So I'm glad seeing, this interview by Street Driven TV put Stephen Francis and his thought process in perspective the right way. We got it directly from Stephen on video. You know what I mean? So all of the subtle nuances, as it relates to how he was feeling, were visually there for you to see and consume in the moment. So I do appreciate it, Trackies. At the end of the day, again, MVP is on one side and Elaine is on the other side, and let's see what happens between the two of them, two sides going forward. But honestly, I just believe that the media needs to just stay out of it. As a matter of fact, I've been seeing bloggers do this as well. I don't even want to blame only traditional media. Bloggers are doing it as well, where if Elaine posts something on her Instagram, all of a sudden it's directed at Stephen Francis. They don't realize how damaging this can be, for relationships between, again, two parties. So yes, honestly, I don't really want to talk about this any further. I'm grateful seeing this interview by, Stephen Francis. I'm just hoping that going forward, they'll be able to, mend those fences, even if they never work together again. You know what I mean, Trackies? But anyway, sound off in the comment section and let me know, what did you think about this interview? Do you find it as, intriguing as I did in relation to the contrast between the one done on Sportsmax on the framing of it all and this one? Which again is the typical Stephen Francis that we are used to. Like the video and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.